I've been talking about the attitude that we should have towards the people that haven't received Jesus yet, before towards the lost people. And yesterday we talked about Jonah. Jonah was a man of God. He was a prophet, and when God told him to go to the city of Nineveh, he didn't want it. And actually, he ran away from God. He ran away from God and from his calling. That's why he had very serious problems when he was in the boat. There was a storm. Everybody was praying to their own God, and Jonah went sleeping in order to hide from God. But then finally, when other people understood who he was, that he was a man of God, that he had a message from God that he didn't want to give, they put him on the water. It came a big fish, but probably a whale swallowed him. At the end of 3 days, he repented in the belly of the whale, and he was vomited by the whale in the shore of Nineveh. It was like a Uber, a taxi taking him. Yeah, and God called him again first. Yes, God called him again. You need to go to Nineveh. And this tells us that God does not give up of our calling. God is hard-headed, and it was like this. So, fortunately, Jonah actually obeyed his calling, and they were in Nineveh. Nineveh was disobedience toward God, but finally they repented and turned to God. This is a very beautiful story, because in this story we see ourselves, we see other brothers and sisters that don't really understand that we all have a calling from God, and each and every one of us has the calling, and if we don't want to obey that calling, we will have problems. And run away from the call, you will have problems also. And many times even if we have people around us, as in that boat, many people suffer. Yes, exactly. And so this is an encouragement, very powerful encouragement. And why? Because many people think that only he that is called to be a pastor or a deacon or musician is the one that has the calling. But no, everyone has a call from God, and that's why I want you to read once again Mark 16 verse 15. And Jesus said, "Go into all the world, preach the gospel to all creatures. He that believes and is baptized will be saved, but he that doesn't believe will be condemned. And these signs should follow the believers. In my name they'll cast out demons, they will speak new tongues, they will pick up serpents, and if they drink anything deadly, it will not harm them. They will lay the hands on the sick and they will be healed." So this is the calling of the believer, to go into all the world and preach the gospel, the good news. So everywhere, it doesn't mean that you need to travel now. So all world, everywhere, it can be your family member, it can be your neighbor, or probably even somebody that is far away from you, but through technology, the distance has no problem. But if God called you to go all over the world, you better go. Yes, if God calls us to go, we need to go. I'm going to evangelize just my family or my neighbors. No, that will be a Jonah. So the secret is to obey, because Jonah was disobedient, and that brought terrible consequences to him. Fortunately, he repented, and that's why God forgave him. But he kept on having the same calling: you need to go. So the consequences was that the people of Nineveh was saved. And this is the nucleus of this story. Our calling, which is global for all believers, it has everything to do with other people everlasting life. So if we fulfill our calling, there will be a lot of people that fortunately will go to heaven, and in this planet they will overcome, they will win also. But if person that doesn't do his calling, there will be a group of people they will go to hell because nobody really helped them. Nobody fought in favor of those people, and the blood will be in the hands of that people. This is the dream that Lester Sumrall had. Yeah, he had a vision, a dream, where he saw a great multitude that was in the same road. Everybody was on the same road, but a big multitude. But when he looked better, when he was closer to the end, he saw that it's people from every nation. So God made him go over this multitude until the end of this big multitude, where there was a big abyss. So everybody was falling there, and the people that were almost falling, they wanted to stop, but people will keep on pushing them, and they were falling and falling one after another, screaming, and they were falling into hell. And then God told them, the blood of these people is on your hand. And this is interesting because the story of Lester Sumrall is similar to Jonah, because Lester Sumrall didn't want it to be a preacher. God had called him. He knew that he had a call, but he wanted to be a businessman because he wanted to be like his father. So he was sick. He was very sick. I think he had tuberculosis, and at the time, I think he was 18, and in those ages, people would die of this sickness. And one day he was very suffering very much, and he saw an open casket and looked at the coffin, the casket, and it was him. So he said he didn't want it to die. In the same dream, he turned into the right side. There was a young man, well-dressed, preaching with the Bible. He looked carefully, and it was him also with the Bible preaching. And God told him, you need to choose whether you want the casket or you want to preach. So obviously he asked to preach, but he was very annoyed with that, but he even said to the people that he was going to preach because he didn't want it to die, until God gave him this dream for him to understand the calling. That's when he repented, and he understood that the life of other people, it depends of my attitude. So he changed radically, and he was a great man of God. He was a general of the gospel. He traveled all over the world, always preaching every single time. And then he came to visit us. He knew about me and Mana Church, and he visited us a lot of times. So Jonah was similar to this. But today we have another case. Also talking about people that have the calling from God, which is Joseph of Egypt. And when you and me, when we have a call from God, a calling that we have, we never know what God has in store for you or me. You have no idea what God is going to do through you, in the sense to conquer other people to Jesus. You have no idea. So, we should never underestimate the gift that God is giving us. Yes, God has a calling for us, and He doesn't show everything in the first moment. He's going to show us step by step according to our obedience. Yes. On one hand, we are saying that a lot of people are going to live forever or going to hell according to my obedience or not to the calling, but we also have the question, not just obedience or disobedience, but we have the question of the blessing. There are a lot of believers that are not able to associate the factor of blessing or problems, big blessing or small blessing. They cannot associate this to serving God a little bit, a lot, or nothing. They think if they don't serve God, it will not affect their life in the planet. Yes, it will affect. Because you will be called, put into a position with a title better or worse according to what you help God, or how you help God here in this earth. So our reward is according to what we do. So many believers, unfortunately, don't know that in this planet, their lives, their everyday life, the fact that you are a little, much, or not too much blessed, it has everything to do with God. That's why in Matthew 24, for instance, Jesus said that the kingdom of God is like a very rich man that gave talents. Distribute those talents. To one gave 3, to other 2, and the other one 1, according to the ability of everyone. It can be money, it can be a house, it can be business, it can be to be an engineer, an architect, but it also gave the talent of the legs to go, the mouth to speak. And Jesus says that first he worked, and after a while, the boss came and he didn't only had 5, but had 5 plus 5. He multiplied those 5 factories, those 5 stores, and he presented 5 more. And the Lord says, yes, good and faithful servant. In the little you are faithful, on much I will put you. The same happened to the one that received 3 talents, but the one that received 1 did nothing to the Lord. And it's the same thing today. There are believers that have talents. Everybody have talents. Instead of putting it to the service of God, they prefer to put it on the service of the world, and they don't care about helping God. And Jesus was very clear. This is a bad servant that is going to hell. So we are seeing here that serving God, it's not an option. It's a condition for me to be saved. We have also another part of the Bible, which is Mark 10, if I'm not mistaken, that there's nobody that leave father, mother, fields. Do you have it there? Can you open? Yeah, I can open. Mark 10. Truly I say unto you that nobody that has left the house, mother, sister, for the love of me and the gospel, that will not receive 100-fold now in this time, houses and brothers and sisters, 100-fold now in these times, right? Yes. One of the examples that I give, the 1,000 of examples we have, is a sister that she was already retired, she was a widow, the sons were already working. She had a dream. She had a dream that was to do a cruise, and she started to save some money for 2 or 3 years. And one day, it was December, I remember because she told me, I was preaching and I said something, and God used those words and said to her, use that money that you saved for all those years, and I'm going to and you are going to give the apostle for him to go and preach the gospel to Africa. And the sister says she didn't hesitate, that with joy she went the next day and gave her offering, completely happy. And then she said that in that same Sunday, and for her, she had gave up the dream. Yeah, she had gave up the dream. But let me tell you that after that, she said the following. Actually, I told, and if you that have placed a seed to the dream of God, don't give up your dream. And she said, well, this is for me. So she didn't give up her dream. She believed this word. And then, unexpectedly, she doesn't even know where the money came from. The money that she sold came back to her account, and much more. So even worse, or even better, somebody paid for the holidays for her in first class, and even in the third week, more money was put into her bank account. So nobody that leaves money or whatever for the love or for the sake of the gospel that doesn't receive a hundredfold this time. Oh, the apostle needs money to buy this place in Brazil for the church, and you sow it. If you do this, you will have benefits, because to serve God brings us benefits. So I want to talk about an example which I think it's amazing. The more I read or study, and you obviously also, the more you listen, it's never too much, which is Joseph of Egypt. Joseph of Egypt was a young man that in his youth had a dream. He was the favorite son of the father. He was the favorite son, and even the brothers were envious of him. And one day he had a dream, and in this dream he saw that the father and the brothers were bowing to him. So it's like God showing that he was going to be big. He saw two dreams. In one dream he saw the brother and then the father, but he never stopped talking about these dreams that to the family. And one day the brothers just put him on the hole for him to die. And God made that some slave owners, businessmen were going by, and they saw them to Potiphar, a general from Egypt. I think he was a captain. He's from the army of Egypt, yes. And he was blessed, and he was delivered. He was about to die and didn't die, and he was blessed because he was working for somebody very important, and he was receiving more and more. What did the devil do? It made that the wife of Potiphar, of his boss, wanted to adulterate and have sexual intercourse with him. And he said, no, I can't. And she tried every single time. And one day, she lied to the husband and told the husband that he was the one that was trying to seduce her. So the husband believed and put this guy in the prison. So Joseph was honest, but he still went to prison. And in those days, he that goes into prison doesn't go out of the prison. But even when he was in jail, something extraordinary was happening, like the dream. Yes, there was two people there that worked for the Pharaoh, and they had a dream. The Pharaoh had a dream, and so he explained the dream, and they had this dream, and they were going to set free. And the truth is that he was able to interpret the dream, and when this man went out, then the Pharaoh had a dream that he saw 7 cows, and 7 cows that were fat, beautiful, very well prepared. And then he had another dream, and some ugly cows came, were really thin, going to starving and in hunger, and those ate the good ones. So the Pharaoh wanted to know if there was a wise man being able to interpret this dream. And somebody remember, yeah, Joseph of Egypt. Yes, the other one that had met Joseph in prison. He said, well, this guy interpreted the dream. We have a young man from he's a Hebrew. He is from God, and he is able to maybe to interpret. So he was called, and he listened to the interpretation that God gave to Joseph. Well, the 7 fat cows, it's 7 very good years, but then the cows that were in starvation mean 7 bad years. So you need to find somebody to manage the wealth of the kingdom during the 7 good years, so that you may be prepared for the 7 years of crisis. So the Pharaoh was so happy and immediately promoted him as number 2 of the kingdom. So he took him out of the kingdom, and immediately in the same day. So he was able to manage the things of the Pharaoh. In the 7 good years, he through laws and wisdom, he was able to save money. And then in the 7 years of crisis, he was able to use that money for everybody to be safe. So this is the stories that God had called Joseph of Egypt. And he didn't understood that in the beginning there's problem. Many people, when they are called to God, they go to tests, and the devil tries to hurt them when they start their walk with God. Although God has given us a different call, it doesn't mean that everything will be okay. Sometimes it can even show that we are going to be tempted. But the positive side of this story is that Joseph finally understood that he had a calling to save the people of Egypt, to help the people of the world. Later, the brothers that tried to kill them came, and he forgave them and saved them also. He was able to save his family and father's family after this, all other believers also. So Joseph had 2 callings. First, to solve the people of the world that don't know God. It was all the people from Egypt. And it's not just these people, it was everybody around, because the Pharaoh dominated all this area. It was an empire. And he was able, with God, wisdom came from God, to save those people. And he was able also to save the people from God, and this is a tremendous call. And what does this say to us? Is that you are as a Joseph. You don't know what God has in store for you. You don't know. And one day a brother and then a sister, a pastor was saying this. Oh, because you, apostle, you are a big man of God, because I am a man with a big God. And I said, no, I'm a very small person or whatever. No, do you remember who was my home group leader? It was me. Don't you understand that I am fruit of you? Everything that I did and I am doing, you have a reward also, because you teach me to love Jesus, you teach me to go to the home group. Then I was a leader. It was all up to you. Oh, I never saw it like this. So, it's not necessary for everybody to be apostle or musician or whatever, but when a person that is able to conquer somebody that God is going to use also, that person will have the reward also, because without the first one, the other one will never enter the calling. So what do I want to say tonight? Whatever you are, whoever you are, you can have a degree or no degree. You can be a very rich people, owner of everything, or you can be somebody that doesn't have anything. For God, it doesn't matter. That will not affect your calling. The only thing that will make the difference, it's your heart. When you decide, me and my house, we will serve God, I'm going to always think about the people that are outside. I will pray, I will intercede. I'm going to pray on Fridays to the service called Fight Until You Conquer. Not just to fight for my problems, but to fight in favor of other people. I will do a list of 5, 6, 10 people. I'll pray for them, I'll visit them, I'm going to call them, I'll buy them books, I'm going to follow them up, because I decide to serve God. I decided to be a servant of God. Every day, only think about this. And then, yes, you will be happy. You will have such a joy in living like you never had before, because the joy comes from God. And obviously, there's people that accept this, others that don't accept that. This is not your responsibility. When we decide to serve God and think about other people, there will be time that you will don't need to pray for yourself, because God will always supply your needs and blessing will come into your life. So God always cares about you. So there's something important for us to speak when we talk about evangelize. When a person, a believer, like many that we know, that after having a problem in marriage or in finances or in their health, they met Jesus, and from that day on I will speak about Jesus every single day. It's a decision. Okay, I'm going to help them. I will follow them up. This is my calling. That's why I say you can be an engineer, but you are not really an engineer. You are a servant of God full time, and in your spare time, you are an engineer to earn money and pay bills and to help the church also. And from that moment on, you don't say, well, I'm a nurse. No, you are a servant of God that always think in the things of God. How can you help more people? How can I take people to church or the home group? And in your spare time, you need to work to pay your bills and have your food. So the Apostle Paul, because in that time when he preached, he didn't knew what we know today about tithe and offering. No, he and not the people, but people were sowing. Okay, he was building tents. He had a business of building tents to maintain his own life and to travel also. But he never said, I'm a businessman. And sometimes I preach, no, I cannot do this journey because I need to take care of business or whatever. No. I want to give another example, which is the following. One day, it happened so many times, but a businessman converted. He was from Brazil, and his life was going to trouble, marriage, finances. The wife was sick. So when he converted, God started to heal them and solve the problem little by little. So he was very encouraged. And when he knew that I was going to Africa, he told me, I would love to go. And I told him, well, I have room in my plane. And he said, oh, Apostle, I can't. I have my business. How can I do? It's just me. If I'm not here, what can I do? How I'm going to pay the bills? And I told him, listen, it's your decision, but I challenge you to come with this faith that if you go with me in this journey, you will see that God will open the doors of heaven, will solve the problems, and He will give you clients. You think so? Yes. You just need to sow. And he finally said, okay, I'll go. Then we got to St. Thomas, I think, the first stop. It's a small hop. And I look at him, and next day he was at the phone, and phone call finished, and he told me, Apostle, you will not believe what I'm going to say. What happened to him? What happened? People that owed me money, I don't know how many times, I had give up on that money. They went to my office, and they paid cash the money they owed me. And I told them, you see this? And he said, yes, I'm putting God first place. And then we went to Mozambique. And then another phone call and whatever. And he was going, Apostle, do you know what happened? I'm not there. And people came and gave 30% or 40% for the business to invest in this mission. I'm not there. And we've been listening to testimonies like this also. People during this pandemic, things like this happening because people, well, the blessed is God. The one that blesses is God. And to tell you the following, when we decide to think about other people, when we decide to help the church, to help God, to conquer more people to Jesus in any way, shape, or form. We have TV, we have music, we have books, so many things we have to evangelize, and obviously also with the seed so that we can do those things. What happened? God is going to bless them, right? Very well.